All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David, and I am here today as your guide on our financial aid journey. Right now, a lot of people probably have heard that the FAFSA has opened. Things are kind of moving along, things are going okay, right? So we're going to talk about those things. There's some news about kind of financial aid and those sorts of things, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what you should be doing now if you're a senior, if you're a junior, if you're a sophomore. Okay, so a lot of people are like, wait, what do I need to do now, right? I thought only seniors have to do things. There are things that you need to do to prep. Okay. So let's talk about what those things might be. Okay. But first, our agenda, right? Again, a short welcome, right? And now we're going to kind of do a little bit of a state of the financial aid union. Okay. I'm also going to give you a quick overview of the new FAFSA, what has changed. And then I'm going to tell you guys what you should be preparing per grade. Okay. After that, I can tell you about how our program can help your family. And then we'll kind of make sure that our families here get the most lucrative price possible for our services. And we will kind of tell you where you need to text in order to get that. Okay, so let us get started here. So first, who we are. We are here every week, okay, at 6 o'clock, right? Well, last week I was there on Tuesday at 5 o'clock, but we're trying to be here every single week so that we can bring you guys the latest news. Now, just beforehand, because I know that there's going to be a family or two out there that kind of comes in and says, where were you guys on December 25th? December 25th is a federal holiday, right? So I'm not working that day. I hope that you are also not working that day as well, okay? But just note that on December 25th, I will not be here, unfortunately. I know you guys miss me all the time, but I will not be here, okay? But again, we are here to bring you guys information about financial aid. We also, tell you about any news that's going on or things that might affect your financial aid process. Okay. So the only thing that we ask you to do as part of kind of being part of our Facebook or coming to our trainings is that you stay involved, right? If we ask questions, please feel free to kind of answer them in the chat or in the Q&A. If you have questions yourself, please bring those up because those might be questions that other families don't know to ask. So please make sure to bring those questions up, right? Just stay engaged with us, whether it's in our Discord, by email, Facebook Messenger, however you can get a hold of us, we do want to talk to you. Okay. Now, we've been here for the past it's going on 16 years now. So after the new year, it'll be 16, right? But over a decade and a half, we've been helping families save money on their college expenses, right? It's been millions of dollars, right? And hopefully you guys are the next family that we can help. Okay. Now, like I said, I did want to go into a little bit of financial aid news because I want people to kind of understand what's going on right now in the world of financial aid. There's a lot of changes happening. There's a lot of things that are, kind of up in the air. There's a lot of uncertainty in the air. Okay. Just like these two people, they're just not sure what's going on. Okay. But this is the kind of the big news that has been happening for the past kind of 3, 4, 5, 6 months. Okay. So financial aid, it's kind of like gone off a cliff, right? It's not what it used to be. It's not doing the things that it was normally doing before, right? It's not providing a pathway to college, so on and so forth, right? Colorado has changed their kind of stance on financial aid. So basically, they're going to be covering 2 years tuition at any public college. Now, obviously, this is for Colorado. You need to be a Colorado resident in order for this to happen. Most of our families are in California. Unfortunately, this does not apply to you, right? But for California, right, they have this kind of new program where the Cal State universities, the CSUs, they hosted like this college night so that they could tell families how to graduate college debt free. Okay. So everyone is about trying to like get out of this financial aid debacle that we're in and kind of like this kind of convoluted system that we have to be a part of, right? Even Washington has now come on board, right? Just a couple days ago saying they're going to be promising free college to low income students, right? Now, low income students, that means different things in different areas, right? But from reading the article, it said families that make under $90,000 a year. Now, I know a lot of our families are above that mark, but it is a kind of marker that shows us that the tide is changing, right? No one believes in the financial aid or like the kind of federal system that has been created, right? So states are taking it upon themselves to try to find another way for students to actually be going to college. Okay. Now, why the uncertainty is spreading, right? So there's some things that have happened in the past years that are kind of prompting this, right? So the first thing, most recently, is that the new administration is talking about like defunding or even getting rid of the Department of Education. right? States are worried that they're not going to be able to fill their seats with students, right? And if state colleges are not able to fill their seats with students, that's a huge problem, right? Because unlike private schools that have endowments in the billions of dollars, the state schools are literally year to year. Okay. They're living paycheck to paycheck from kind of like our standards. Okay. But again, like I said, they are taking proactive measures to make sure that students from various backgrounds can go to college, right? I think more states are going to be doing these sorts of things, right? California has a program where you basically you can go to community college. Like if you go to a California high school, you can go to a California community college free for 2 years, tuition free, right? And then once you transfer, well, now you don't have to worry about like a mounting student debt because the 2 years that you went to college at community college are free, right? Now colleges are also kind of joining the fight, right? To make sure that they have a student base. But you have to remember, they're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They're doing it because they are afraid that there's going to be no students coming to their college anymore. Okay. Now, and I say kind of embang, right? Because I told you about all the lawsuits that are happening, right? MIT, Penn, CMU, Brandeis, these are some of the schools that are getting sued, right? In the price fixing scandal for kind of financial aid, also in the kind of CSS one that is kind of still in the works right now, right? So this is what has happened recently. And these aren't the only schools. There's a bunch of schools that have announced things like this. But just recently, an article came out and it was like MIT, UPenn, Carnegie Mellon, and Brandeis, right? They have announced that it will be tuition free for many, many households. MIT has even told in an article that families that make $200,000 or less, tuition is going to be completely free. Okay. So that's a huge kind of like change from the tune that they were singing just a couple years ago, right? Just a couple years ago, if you're making $200,000, you're still paying 50, 60, $70,000 a year. Yeah, they're going to give you a little bit of a discount, but tuition free, that never happened before. But I do think that it's because of all these class action lawsuits that are coming out that the colleges are deciding, you know what, we better get ahead of this and like, change the way that we're doing things, right? Others also have kind of put these kind of tuition-free kind of pledges out there. Dartmouth, Colby, Vanderbilt, Duke, Columbia, Richmond, University of Virginia, University of North Carolina, right? Now, like I said, I'm not as like, oh my God, they're being so nice. This is a PR move, right? They don't need the money anyway, right? Like literally, like the endowment of MIT, the endowment of UPenn, the endowment of Harvard, right? These colleges, right, can run for the next 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 years without another dollar from another student, right? They can literally pay all their expenses off the interest on their endowment, right? But there has been a large backlash at elite institutions, right? It's at a historic high, right? There was obviously, the whole affirmative action ruling in the Supreme Court. There's a lot of things that are happening in higher education right now that have people on edge. And so they're trying to get on everyone's good side right now. Okay. So if you are a family that has a student that is going to college in the next 2, 3, 4 years, you should try to use this to your advantage. Okay. Now, something I say every week, right? If you have a Ferrari in your driveway, I'm not sure why you're here, right? Because there are a lot of other people that I do need to help, right? But let's say that you are a family and you're looking for help, right? I don't care if you make $100,000, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, $700,000 a year, right? I can help you, right? But I need to understand your situation. There are families that we can help more. There are families that we can help less, right? There's families that we can't help, and there are families that we can help, right? So that's why I always suggest to you to sign up for a consultation so that we can understand your situation the best, right? So if you are looking to save money, right, pay attention today, right? There will be a number that you can text later so that our team can make sure to get you on our schedule. Now, my schedule is pretty crazy this time of year. There's financial aid to be done. I'm also one of the head coaches in our coaching program, and seniors are kind of getting ready to turn in their final applications. Okay, so my schedule is crazy, right? But if we need to meet at 8 o'clock in the morning, or if we need to meet at 11:30 at night, I will make it happen. Especially if you're a senior and you're like, oh my God, Coach David said he's busy. He's not going to have time to meet me. Don't worry, I will find time to meet you. So if you are a senior, okay, please reach out to us, later via text. Let them know that you are a senior and that Coach David said to, that he'll find a time for us, right? Then, just make sure that our team can help you that way. Okay. Now, really quickly before we go into the things that you should be doing in the particular grade, like, different grades that you're in right now, is an overview of the new FAFSA. Okay. Let me show you what has changed. It's literally one page. That's it. These are the changes. So for those that were like on their toes, like, oh my God, they're going to create a new and better system and it's going to be a, financial aid utopia. Unfortunately, not. Nothing has changed. Okay. They created a tool to tell you who should be filling it out if you're part of a separated or divorced family, right? They have another page, a landing page that literally says, congratulations, your information was matched to IRS. And the third is that now student other circumstances is now called student homelessness. That's it. Those are the three changes that happened. That took them 14 months to do. So congratulations, right? That's it. Okay. So again, I'm not kind of happy that they kind of delayed this. There was no need to delay anything. They literally changed three things, right? But here's one of the things, right? It's open now. So now we have to work on it, right? Um, the one redeeming quality is that it's actually working so far, right? I'm not hopeful it's going to continue still working, right? But right now, at least, it's working, right? So all of our financial aid clients, right? All of our families, right? That are signed up with us, they're going to be done by the end of this week, right? Um, but if you're doing it on your own, make sure that you're staying on top of kind of how things are going and if there's any glitches or things that are happening with the website. Okay. Now, like I said, if there's any new information, right? I know the system is constantly trying to kind of like get one up on us, right? I will let you know, right? I haven't seen any new information out or kind of things about kind of like the new form because there's nothing that has really changed versus last year, right? But right, like the quote on the right, it says, after months of hard work and lots of feedback from students, schools, and other stakeholders, we can say with confidence that FAFSA is working. Congratulations, you had 14 months to do it. I'm really glad, right? I hope you guys can hear the sarcasm in my voice, okay? Because I was really fed up last year, and then I was really hoping for it to just go smoothly this year. It didn't, right? We'll have to see what happens next year, okay? Now, I want to make sure that families understand what they need to be doing per grade. Now, I'm going to start at the top, right, with our seniors, because obviously they're the most urgent, and then I will move backwards. Okay. So let's talk about seniors right now. Okay. So for seniors, right, now for most families, right, and for a lot of our coaching families, your student is almost done or done, right? Now, parents, it is your turn to go through the financial aid paperwork. Okay. So just like this, like, last year, there's a delay this year, right? So it opened about 2 weeks ago, but it's time for us to get to work. So parents, if you are doing this on your own, right, this is the time where you need to start getting things together. Your taxes, right, from your 2023 tax year, bank statements. You might want to get, your W-2s or 1099s or whatever tax forms that you have, just in case they ask questions about it. Okay. Now, one of the biggest things that I tell students and parents is that you need to be checking your college application kind of like applicant portals after you have turned things in. Okay. Now, for some of our students, that means that you need to log into 20 or 30 or 40 different application sites to check on the status of your application. Unfortunately, that needs to happen once or twice a week. So whether you guys want to split it up as a family, be like, I'm going to take all these, you take all these, we're going to check once or twice a week, right? It does need to happen. The reason is because, right, after you turn in your college applications, there are things that need to follow, right? So the FAFSA needs to go in there, the CSS, IDOC, school-specific forms, so on and so forth, right? So you want to make sure that the school has received them, and you also want to make sure that the school doesn't have other kind of things that they want you to do. Some schools have very specific things. They want you to send a signed copy of your tax return, and it needs to be signed in black or blue ink, right? You think I'm joking. I'm not. Okay. I've had parents that they sign in a weird color and it's like they don't accept it, right? So make sure to follow the instructions that are there. But the only way to know is that they're not going to send you a personalized email saying, hey, here are the things that we're missing from you, Johnny, right? Instead, they're going to expect that you're going to the applicant portal. I understand it is a lot of work, right? But you need to be checking your applicant portals, right? The portals you get after you have applied at least once or twice a week. Okay. Now, they will be asking for additional information, especially the private schools. A lot of the public schools, you're not really going to have to worry about these things, right? The only time you'll ever have to turn these things in for like a UC or a CSU is if you're selected for like an audit, right? Which is like one out of every 10,000 people, right? But for private schools, they will ask you W-2s, 1099s, business tax returns, partnership statements, bank statements, so on and so forth. They'll be asking for a lot of different things, right? The list is pretty exhaustive on what they can ask for, right? I'm never going to be able to put all of it on here, but this is just a kind of snippet of what they might be asking for. Okay. Now, that's seniors. That's what you should be doing. If you took anything away from this, it's that you need to be checking your applicant portals. Okay. For juniors, this is what juniors are probably thinking about. They're seeing the seniors and they're getting in early action, early decision. We have a bunch of students that have gotten, accepted by some of their early schools. And then also there's a bunch of schools that are actually that are sending out acceptances a lot earlier than last year, right? So they're kind of like, they have all these dreams of like, oh, graduation, it's going to be great. But before that, there's a lot of things that need to be happening, right? So as far as like the college apps, yes, there's a lot of things that need to happen. You have to decide where to apply, all these different things, right? What are the, considerations that you need to have on the college campus that you're selecting? But on the financial aid side of things, for juniors, parents, listen very carefully, right? If you're going to make any changes to things that are happening in 2024, how much you're going to contribute to your IRA, retirement, right? How you're going to kind of end off the business year if you own a business, whatever it is, you have 20 days to figure it out. That is it. After that 20-day mark, you can't retroactively go back and change something in your 2024 taxes. Okay. So you have 20 days. That's it. So you need to make an appointment with your financial advisor if you have one or your CPA to see what you can do. Now, I tell my families all the time, if there's anything that you can do to bring down your income, especially if your student is a junior, right? So again, remember, it's always 2 years before. So the class of 2026, those are the juniors, right? So for that class, the proper tax year that you want to use is the 2024. If there's anything that you can do to bring down your kind of overall kind of income for the 2024 year, it's something that you should think about doing. Okay. So we want to make sure that like you guys are thinking about the future, right? College is about making sure that you guys get your education, not about adding debt to your name. Okay. So we want to make sure that families are making the right choices, right? You also want to make sure that you're thinking about the limits, right? As you talk to your student about college, the conversation should not be, yeah, you know what, get in somewhere good, we'll figure out how to pay for it, right? That is the kind of plan that I have seen lead to kind of financial disaster. Okay. So if it's like, you know what, this is how much that we can afford for college right now, then you should have that real conversation with your student. Okay. So think about that, right? And it all starts by planning. Okay. So that's what I want juniors to be thinking about. Are there ways to lower our income for the appropriate tax year? Right. And also, what are the limits? As we're getting there, parents, you need to be thinking about it too. It's like, okay, well, yeah, private school, it's about $90,000 a year, right? I make 180. Can we spend half of our income on that? Probably not, right? We need to figure out what needs to get done. And if it's like, okay, yeah, well, we still want to go for it, then that's okay. But you need to understand the ramifications of the money that you'll be borrowing. Okay. So again, keep those things in mind. Now, for sophomores and freshmen, you have a little bit more time. Okay. Now, one of the things that I've always told families is 529, forget about it. Okay. And I actually brought like a real example. I used the kind of like a calculator that kind of looked over the kind of historical trends of the 529 and the kind of like just like the general S&P 500. And here's why I tell you not to put in a 529. If you put money into a 529, you have to report it on your FAFSA, right? They ask you explicitly if you have a 529 or an educational savings account. And what do they do when they see that money there? Let's say that there's, I don't know, $10,000 in there, right? They automatically divide it into four. So that's $2,500 each year that they think that you're going to be able to spend for college. They don't kind of take into consideration that your students later may be going to graduate school or this or that. They don't care about that. They just see 10,000 divided by four. That's how they do it. Okay. Now, obviously, for college, you do need to set money aside. This isn't kind of like a, oh, well, I'll just kind of give you whatever change I have, right? It's a huge investment, probably the biggest one other than buying, your family home, right? This kind of is a small example to show you what $100 has done in a 529 versus that same money in the S&P. Okay, so $100 in a 529 for the last decade would have netted you a $34 profit. Okay, that's it. That's all you get. Okay, that same money in the S&P would have basically 2.7 times or basically almost tripled your money. Okay. The reason why I tell families not to put in a 529 is because it's all already post-tax dollars, right? So it's not like you're getting any tax benefit, right? The only tax benefit that you see is if you use it on a qualified educational expense, you don't pay taxes when you take the money out. That's it, right? So you want to make sure that you are using the right savings tool, okay? Now, financial tools, right? And utilizing these financial tools, this is also kind of relevant to juniors that are kind of getting ready for the upcoming next year, okay? There are ways to safely move, your assets, right, to lower your liability. Okay. So again, this list of things that you can do is extensive, right? And again, there's a list out there. You can just literally search online, moving assets for financial aid, right? There's qualified retirement accounts. There's cash value and whole life insurance policies. There's cars, boats, jewelry, and personal use, right? Now, one of the things that I kind of looked up very closely is jewelry, right? Because if you buy a $5 million diamond, or if you buy $5 million in gold bars, right? Technically, that's not used as an asset, but your rental home is, right? So these are things that you have to take into account as you're buying things, right? I understand families are trying to secure their futures, they're trying to do, make moves and do things, right? But you want to make sure that you do it in the right way so that you don't harm your financial aid, okay? So keep that in mind, right? Another piece of information that I will put here is this. You want to make sure that your student does not have any assets. Okay. If they currently have assets in their name, you want to change that before it is the year that is important for financial aid. So that's 2 years before their graduation year, right? Now, there's also other, like I've always brought this up, but I found that there's very few people that can actually do this, right? Deferring income or bonuses and pushing them off till later, right? Now, I know it's around bonus time right now, right? End of the year, right? Bonuses are coming up. If there is a way for you to push it, right? Especially if your student right now is a junior, it might be beneficial for you to do so depending on the size of your bonus. Now, if your bonus is like $10,000, no problem. You can probably just take it. But there are families I've seen where their bonus is larger than their actual base salary. Okay. In that situation, you might want to see if you can push it. But again, there's very few companies that do that for their own tax reasons. Okay. And then finally, this is one that you can control, right? Most of the time, right? And it's avoiding capital gains. Okay. So yeah, you know, Bitcoin went up huge, right? Or, this went up huge. Your stock portfolio went up huge and you want to buy a Ferrari, so you're going to take out $400,000 out of it, right? That's probably not the right move to do if your student is in that year that is important for them. Okay. So keep that in mind as well. Okay. Now, for freshmen and sophomore students, the most important part is understanding the system. Now, we have this beautiful hot rod engine on the right, okay? I can't tell you what those cables do, and I can't tell you what that lever does on the right side, okay? But we have students in our program as young as fourth grade. The reason why is because they don't understand the system and they want to try and get a head start on understanding it, okay? It's never too early to understand the system. And like I said, financial aid is a game that we need to strategize and play. Okay. So you need to make sure, right, that you understand exactly what you're getting yourself into, right? You need to understand your situation. I might not understand that car engine, but for financial aid, I understand it inside and out, right? I think I heard, right? Right. My wife was talking the other night, right? And she was like, you were talking about financial aid in your sleep, right? And I was like, oh my God, that's a little scary, right? But that's how much I look into these things. I understand the whole process backwards and forwards. Okay. So, like I tell you guys every week, we can help. You just have to let us. Okay. So, again, there are things that you need to prepare, right? Make sure you understand college expenses, understand the strategies. But the biggest thing is obviously having a consultation with us, right? We do like to kind of share our success stories, right? And these are the ones I've been sharing, right? Once the early ones come out, I will also share those as well, right? But this family, right, we were able to basically make, UPenn 40% of the cost, right? This student at UCLA, they're paying $6,000 a quarter. That's all they're paying, okay? And then for this family that is going to the Claremont colleges, it only costs $26,000 to attend each year. That's $13,000. That's basically paying for room and board. That's all they're paying for, okay? So keep that in mind. We do have a lot of success stories. Now, for our families that are here today, right? I want to make sure that you guys get the best deal possible. Okay. As you guys know, just about 2 weeks ago, right? It was my birthday, right? And so because of that, I had a discount running. But then I realized I can't really run it for that long because I was on vacation for a week, right? So that discount is still here. If you are interested in getting that discount, I want you to go ahead and text FAFSA to 949-298 6234. Okay. Our team, again, will kind of, communicate with you to see when you can kind of sign up for a consultation. And then we will find a time to discuss your situation and what I can do to save your family money. Okay. Again, if you are a 12th grader right now, if you are a senior family, right, make sure to tell them that you are so that you can get on the schedule ASAP. Again, I will move everything I need to help those, senior families. For those junior families or younger, please be a little patient with me so that I can make sure to, take care of this year's class. And then I will make sure to get to you as soon as possible as well. Okay. All right. And if you guys like to kind of just do things on your own, I know that there's people like that, right? I'm going to go ahead and put the link in so you can sign up for a consultation yourself. Okay. So I will put that in the chat here. Okay. So I do want to open up for Q&A. I do see that there are some new people here as well. If you do have questions, you can put them in the Q&A or in the chat. And then if you do, if you are interested in talking to us, go ahead and use just text FAFSA to 949-298-6234. Okay. So we do have some questions here, so we'll kind of get started and then we'll talk about that. Okay. So the first question I have in the Q&A here is there an income limit on who you can help? So like I said, kind of at the earlier part of our presentation here. You can make anywhere between 100 and 700. Where and how I can help you might differ, right? And the amounts that I might be able to help you with differ. But you should never think that you're kind of out of the running. There's no such thing as being out of the running. Okay. So usually I say if your income is kind of hitting that 7-digit mark, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, right? But if you're kind of like in that kind of 100, to 700 range, I should be able to help you. Okay. There is another question here. It says, on the FAFSA, I saw a question in the parent section regarding pension rollover into an IRA or the qualified plan that caused confusion. Contains amount, but line five and so this is a very specific question. I would have to kind of take a look at exactly which question it is. But generally speaking, if it's a qualified, like non-reportable asset, then you wouldn't have to report it, right? So the easiest way to figure out the answer to this question is to look up your kind of like, if, your specific type of IRA, right? And see if that is reportable or not. Pension rollover into an IRA, at the end of the day, it's still just an IRA, right? There's obviously some tax kind of pieces to you having a pension and then rolling it over, but you kind of figure that out if it is a qualified, piece of, if it's a qualified retirement account that does not count as a reportable asset, then you shouldn't have to report it. Okay. All right. And yeah, oh, here we go. We have another question. All right. So we have another family here and they have a question and it's like, our income is lower right now, but we have a large 529 and we have rental properties. Is there still hope to save money? Yes, you're the exact family I want to talk about because your family probably is thinking that we're just gonna have to eat up our 529, right? But how nice would it feel if you didn't have to use that 529 now and when your students later go into grad school, you can use it for them, right? So yes, you should sign up for a consultation. Text that number 949-298-6234 or use the link that is in the chat. But yes, if your income is lower, right? I've worked with a lot of families that are lower income, right? Higher assets, right? There is a very simple situation to the 529 situation, right? So I'm not sure if you know this, right? I think I haven't seen you at our trainings before, right? But the government created a loophole for us. And the loophole was that grandparent held 529s are no longer considered in financial aid calculations, right? So that's the easy answer, but we'll have to kind of discuss your situation once we're in a consultation. Okay. We have another question. It says, my son has been accepted and received merit scholarships for a private school. Does this usually include FAFSA or does that come later for room and board? So the question becomes, where is that school and how much was it, right? If the merit scholarship covers like most of the tuition or like all of the tuition, you're in a pretty good situation, right? Now, room and board is usually something that they expect families to cover most of the time, right? Um, because wherever you go to college, like that's an expense that you incur. But depending on how much you got, we'll have to see, right? But most schools, if they're a school that accepts only FAFSA, they haven't done their need-based kind of analysis yet because they haven't gotten your FAFSA yet. Okay. So it's that school at that number. I mean, it depends on your income. We'll have to see, right? If you've already turned in your FAFSA, right, you'll have to wait and see on that. If you haven't turned in your FAFSA, I would suggest that you set up a consultation to see what I think I can do in excess of what you've already gotten, right? And so we'll kind of see what happens there, right? We have a question here. It says, if you own a primary and investment property, can we still get assistance? Yeah, there's plenty of people that have rental properties and that own their own home that get financial aid. Okay. We have another question here. It says, can we do the FAFSA after we file 2024 taxes in February because they reported earnings 50% less than 2024? No, you cannot, right? So the question is, can we wait until our 2024 taxes are filed and then do the FAFSA for our senior? I think is basically the question, right? That's not how it works, right? So just because you have a more recent tax return does not mean that's the one that they're looking for, right? But you are in a situation that is going to require a little bit more uh, nuance and kind of assistance, right? So just the simple answer to your question is that you will turn in your 2023 taxes, right? And you will kind of create the FAFSA with that one. But there's an appeal process at every school if there has been a significant or material change in your situation, which being at 50% of your previous income is, right? Now, I will kind of preface that by saying if it changed from you were making $5 million, now you're making $2.5 million, that's not going to change anything. But if you were making 200 and now you're making 100, that will change things. Okay. So we'll probably have to talk about that in a consultation, but your situation is a very unique one. So sign up for a consultation. We will make sure to kind of go over that and what more you can save. Okay. Um, so there's a follow-up to the pension question. So if the pension was kind of, we did not roll just another company. So I'm not sure if I'm answering the or understanding the question correctly, but are you saying that you have a pension and now there's a new company that's paying out your pension? I'm not 100% sure there, right? We have another question that says, how is a parent 401k factored into aid calculation? So your retirement, right? And again, this depends on what types of schools you're applying to and what forms they're asking for. In some situations, your 401k is not going to be considered in financial aid calculation. In some instances, it will be factored into your financial aid calculation, right? Now, is the whole amount in your retirement going to be counted? No, I believe it's 6% is going to be counted, but it will be counted for certain colleges. Now, just generally, right? And again, it's very general information, but the schools that are not going to look at your 401k are more of the FAFSA schools, right? So you can think UC, CSUs. The ones that are going to look into it are your private schools. Okay. Um, so we have another question that says there was a lower year in the income, right? Is there any number that, could hurt the student, getting assistance if it's, too low? Um, Yeah, okay. So I understand your question. Your question is there an income level that is too low to where the point of like where they won't give you any assistance? The answer is no, right? The closer to zero or even negative that you can be is going to help your situation, right? But again, we'll have to see where that exact number is. I really want to talk to you to kind of see what the specifics are so that we can figure out kind of like what is the best scenario for you guys. Okay. Um, Okay, so going back to the pension question, it says no pension, just 401k savings. I think line five is just asking for the rollover amount. So if there was no amount rolled over, then you don't have an issue. Then the answer should be zero, right? So I think that's a pretty straightforward one, right? So if you didn't roll anything over, then there should be nothing there, right? We have another question. It says, a medical condition is a single family, is there special funding for that available? Unfortunately, no, right? So whether your family is a single kind of single earner or two parents are working or whatever it is, right? They're just going to look at your household income, right? So just as an example, right? So let's say that there's two people working and the total is $200,000. And there's one person working and the income is $200,000. There's no difference in kind of aid that's given, right? Okay. You did do a roll. So I'm guessing you rolled over from one 401 to a different 401. I'm guessing that's what you're talking about. Okay. So if it's a rollover from one 401k to another 401k, usually that's something that you don't need to report. It's a non-reportable asset, right? So I would go ahead and just put zero there. Okay. All right. So great questions today. I think there's a lot of newer families that are coming into our trainings now. But if you guys do have questions, feel free to reach out, right? We're available on Facebook. Just leave a comment on something. I will be also making a comment or like a post about this training if you want to see the replay, right? If there's something you missed or you came up late. So just make sure to comment there as well if you want to talk to us. So here, this is actually the question was, do they need financial information from the non-custodial parent? Okay. So if you've been here for our past kind of trainings for like the past 3, 4 weeks, this is something that I talked about in our kind of like financial aid news portion, right? So there's actually a class action lawsuit going on right now about like non-custodial parents and like them and colleges like lowering financial aid because they have the information of that non-custodial parent. Technically speaking, they should not be using that for financial aid calculation, right? But have they been using it for the last like 20, 30, 40 years? Yeah. And how many students that did that affect? Probably in the hundreds of thousands, right? So technically speaking, do you need to? No, right? But in your specific situation, person that asked this question, please sign up for a consultation so that we can discuss it a little bit more specifically so I understand the situation, right? Just, I wish I could kind of give more specific information out here, but a lot of the times there's a lot of sensitive information that I don't really feel comfortable talking about in a group setting. So please kind of keep that in mind, sign up for that consultation so that we can talk further. Okay. We have another question that says, can it hurt the chances of acceptance if an applicant, if they apply for FAFSA or for financial aid in general? The answer is no, right? There's a lot of people out there that say, oh, my kid didn't get in because we applied for financial aid. No, the real answer is that your kid wasn't good enough, right? Now, a lot of you guys might be like, oh my God, what did he just say? Right? But it's just that your kid wasn't that competitive that year, right? Financial aid is a completely different process than the college admission side. Okay. College admissions makes a decision on your acceptance or rejection. And then if you are accepted, they send it over to the financial aid office. Okay. It's not like they're like, talking about it behind the scenes and say, hey, this kid's asking for money. We don't want to accept him because then it's going to cost us more money. It just doesn't happen that way. They have too much money, right? So it's not going to be something is that's going to be a problem. Um, so we have another question, and it's about kind of like crypto, and it's like it's surging. Do I report it in the FAFSA too? You don't need to report that because, well, I don't know why you would want to report the surge because what if it drops to 10% of its value, right? So if that's actually not a cash asset, right? Just because you can liquidate something does not mean it's a cash asset. So actually, I would not report those. Okay. Um, Okay. All right. So again, thank you guys for being here with me today. We will be back here next week, right? Hopefully, like I really hope that there's never like any news going on, but there's always something that's going on with financial aid. So I'll bring you that news, and then we will be talking about some new topics next week. Okay. But please make sure to sign up for a consultation if you guys have not already, right? And then we will hopefully talk to you again soon. Okay. Reach out to us if you have any additional questions, and I will, make sure to get to them. Okay. All right. Everyone have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.